Hello, Second Chances with Sophia V family. My name is Busi and I am a South African that is currently living in Canada, and I moved to Canada with my family in 2019. I was born in Gauteng in a township called Katlehong. I grew up being the fourth of 5 children, so I'm the only girl at home. My mom is from KZN and my dad is from the Eastern Cape, and they both met in Gauteng, which is where I grew up. I went to school in town, which means I'm one of the people that had the privilege of waking up around 5 a.m. just to make it to school on time each and every day. And sometimes it didn't quite work out that way. And I have my fair share of stories with principals and teachers just not accepting taxis breaking down as an excuse, even if it's something that actually did happen. My family and I immigrated to Canada through what is called the Express Entry process for federal skilled workers. Now, I would strongly encourage that if you are somebody who has work experience, you have an education, whether it is a bachelor's degree or a diploma, even if you have a trade skill, there are a number of different programs that exist that could be something that you would be able to immigrate through if you are interested in moving to Canada. They also do have programs for people who are caregivers, and I strongly suggest that you check out the canada.ca website because the process is detailed there. And I also do share the process that my family and I specifically went through on my YouTube channel, Busi G. I work in the IT industry, and as I mentioned, I moved with my family, which is my husband and our 2 boys. When we moved to Canada, my youngest was 2 years old and my oldest at the time was 6. And we both did not have any jobs when we moved. So we found jobs only after we moved to Canada. Neither of us needed to upskill, so there wasn't any courses or things that we had to do extra over and above what we already had coming into the country. And we used LinkedIn and Indeed as the platforms to search for jobs. So one of the tips that I would give if you are somebody who is looking to find a job in a different country is to make sure that you have an up-to-date profile. Make sure you have an online profile that is up to date with your current skills, your experience, and your education, as well as all the certifications that you get if that is something that is relevant in your industry. Create a LinkedIn profile if you don't have one already. And if you do have a LinkedIn profile, make sure it is optimized and it is an all-star profile, which will make it easier for recruiters to be able to find you when they're looking for somebody with your skills. Now, the reason why I want to emphasize on the point that recruiters will be able to find you if you have an optimized profile is because the jobs that I've had 3 jobs since I moved to Canada. I've worked for 3 different companies, and for all of those companies, recruiters found me through my LinkedIn profile because it is optimized and it's an all-star profile, and it has all the right keywords that match my skills, they match my education, and all the relevant things that a recruiter would search for or look for if they were looking for somebody who has my skills and my experience. I do have a video on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile if that's something that you would need help with on my YouTube channel, and I will share the link for that video so Sophia can add it to the description and you can easily find it and watch it if optimizing your LinkedIn profile is something that you need help with, so it can be easier for you to find jobs and be discoverable to any recruiter that would be looking for somebody that has your skills and your experience. Indeed is another platform, Indeed.ca. You can search up Indeed and you can look for jobs on Indeed. It's a platform I used and my husband used as well. My husband is a mechanical engineer, and for him, Indeed was and has been one of the best platforms and the platform that he was able to secure jobs through. So I totally highly recommend both LinkedIn and Indeed as platforms that you can use to look for jobs. Now, as I mentioned, I have 2 kids, and when we moved, they were 2 years old and 6 years old. So my youngest was going to preschool and my oldest was just starting with grade 1 when we got to Canada. Now, in terms of how the schooling systems are different to South Africa, number one is the public schooling system here in Canada is fully funded by the government. So you don't have to pay anything out of pocket to get a really good education for your children. Canada's education system is one of the highly ranked education systems in the world. So that's the number one thing and the biggest thing that I would say was a big push for us to choose Canada as a country that we immigrate to as a young family that had kids that still needed to go through the schooling system. Preschool here in Canada, I would say, is quite similar to South Africa in terms of how it works, really, because my oldest went to preschool when we were still in South Africa. One of the biggest things that is very different, we live in the province of Ontario, and the prices of preschools are going to be different in different provinces, and it also differs by the age of the child. And that is similar to South Africa, of course. But the cost of preschool here is way higher than what we were used to in South Africa. As an example, when our 2-year-old was in preschool, we were paying 1,440 Canadian dollars per month. Now, as a new immigrant, you might be eligible for subsidies, but it's not a guarantee. So if you would be moving to Canada with young kids that would still need to go to preschool, that is something that I strongly and highly recommend that you budget for, so you are able to pay for your child's fees. But just make sure that you're looking at the different preschools that exist and you know what the price ranges are, because the price that I'm sharing was from 2019. And in terms of the subsidies that I mentioned, they differ per region, they differ per province. So if you know which provinces you're interested in moving to, you can just Google search child care subsidies in X province. And then you would be able to find links that get you to different regions and how those programs work, because they're very different, and it's just best to consult those websites to get the most accurate and most up-to-date information about the particular place that you would be interested in moving to. The top 3 things that have surprised me since moving to Canada is, number 1, the fact that you can legally make a right turn at a traffic light, if it's safe to do so, of course. Now, in South Africa, the side of the road that we drive, if this was a legal thing in South Africa, you would be able to make a left turn if there was no oncoming traffic. So you would stop. If the traffic light is red and it's safe to do so, you can carry on and turn left. I just find it something that makes traffic move a little bit more, because why do you have to stop if there's no car that's coming on the other side? I hope it makes sense, but that's one of the things that shocked us. And when we just got to Canada, we were stopping, of course, because we didn't know that you can legally make a right turn even when the traffic light is red. And over time, when we got to do our driver's licenses and we were learning for the learner's test, we got to actually learn that it was a legal thing to do. And that was that. So that's one of the things that was quite surprising. The second thing that has surprised me with moving to Canada, and it's one of the things that I'm honestly still trying to get used to, is the fact that store prices do not include tax on the shelf. So if you're seeing a product, if you're going to the store, whether you're buying clothes, whether you're buying furniture, whether you're buying food, if you see a price on the shelf, that price does not include any tax. So the VAT, what's called VAT in South Africa, is called HST here. It's not included on that price that you see on the tag of the clothing that you'd be buying. And it will be added when you go to the till and you ring the things up, and then you'll see, okay, they will add the 13% tax, depending on which province you are as well. The tax differs per province that you are in. So that's one of the things that I'm still trying to get used to, and I would say is something that you should keep in the back of your mind even when you visit Canada and North America in general. Tax is not added on the prices that you see on the store shelves. And number 3 of the biggest things that have surprised me with Canada is just how common a 2-week vacation is. Now, if you work in South Africa, you probably know that it's quite common for people to have 21 days of leave per year, or 4 weeks, however it's termed in your contract with the employer that you are with. But 4 weeks, 21 days is pretty standard in South Africa. It's a normal thing. But here, it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks is standard. But I will say, if you are somebody who's coming in with some experience under your belt, you can definitely negotiate for more weeks off. And one of the other things that I find uncommon, or have found uncommon in Canada when it comes to vacation and leave, is the fact that you can have more than 4 weeks. And that depends on how long you've spent with an employer. So employers here reward loyalty with more vacation days off. So as much as 2 weeks is normal, I still find it very weird. I think it's crazy that you could be expected to only have 2 weeks off in an entire year. But it is what it is, I guess, on that front. But the more years that you spend with an employer, the more you can have time off, and you can end up with more than 4 weeks, which is pretty cool if you're on that side of having more time off than just 2 weeks in a year. The biggest things that I would say anyone should consider if you are thinking of moving to Canada is the weather, number one. The weather differs in different parts of Canada, and it is a myth that it's cold in Canada from January to December. We have summer, and summers here, I will tell you, are much hotter than summers that I've experienced living in Johannesburg, because I lived in Johannesburg before we moved to Canada, and the summer here can get very hot, like very, very, very hot. So I would encourage that you make a search on Google for the different provinces. Again, different provinces have different weather extremes. So some places are much colder in the winter than other places, just as summers in other places are much warmer than summers in certain places. So that is one thing that I would encourage that you search. For all the provinces that you're interested in living in, just have a rough idea of what the weather looks like in those provinces. Another very important thing that you should consider is taxes. So the way that I mentioned taxes being different in the stores, so the HST that gets added to products that you're buying, whether you're buying clothes or you're buying furniture, income tax differs in Canada per province. You have federal tax, and then you have provincial tax, and the provincial tax differs in each province. So it's worth making a Google check just to see, if I live in this particular province, how much provincial tax should I expect to have to pay per income bracket. So similar to how it works in South Africa, you do pay tax as you earn. So it's based on the income brackets, but the percentage amount will differ depending on the province that you're in. The third thing that I would say you have to really look into before you move to Canada is just how expensive housing can be in Canada, whether you want to buy a house or rent. And it also differs with the provinces. So similar to South Africa, really. Renting a place or buying a place in Johannesburg, it will depend which part of Johannesburg you're in. Similar to Durban, similar to Cape Town, similar to if you'd be in Limpopo, for example. It just depends which part of the province you are in and which part of the country you are in. But in general, the prices of houses, whether you're renting or you're buying in Canada, are just much higher. And I would encourage that you go look for websites like Remax. You can also check out a website called Kijiji. So it's KIJIJI.ca, and you would be able to see an average of how much houses cost, whether you would be renting a house or buying a house. And then the last thing that I want you to consider and try to do as much as you can is fight the urge to convert things to rands. I know it's difficult. It's something that I'm also still trying to not do, but I still do it. But if you're gonna convert prices, I'm telling you, you're gonna give yourself little heart palpitations, and you're gonna be like, okay, this is ridiculous. It just does not make sense. So don't convert things to rands. Don't do it. I still do it, but please try not to do it. As you all know, we are living through a pandemic right now, and that has really affected the immigration process, and it has slowed things down to a point where the government right now is really prioritizing people who are already in Canada, maybe through a work visa, to convert them to being permanent residents. That is not something though that should deter you in starting the process, at least, because we have no idea when they will start intaking new immigrants from outside of Canada, and they've already made plans to reopen the borders for international travelers. So things are definitely looking up, and I would encourage that you at least start the process of looking at what you would need to be able to move to Canada, if that is something that you would like to do. One of the strangest things that I have had to eat or try in Canada is pumpkin pie. Now, you know pies in South Africa. I'm used to pies having like vegetables and meat in them, not pumpkin. So that was a very weird thing to taste, and it tastes really good actually. So the one thing that I would suggest with pumpkin pie, don't just try one, and if you don't like it, decide that, oh, it's just really terrible. Try different ones and even try making it yourself at home. So find a recipe online and try it out, and you will find that it's actually a pretty nice thing to eat. So that was one of the things that were quite strange and I wasn't used to, but it tastes really good when you get used to it or get one that's made very well. Maybe I can make pumpkin pie sometime for you when you visit Canada or you come to Canada, who knows. If you are somebody who is interested in moving to Canada, I honestly wish you the best, and I hope that you will be able to find all the information that you are looking for. I do have a YouTube channel called Busi G, and I share a lot on the process of immigrating, how my family and I got to do it, our experience in Canada, and a number of things that people generally want to know about moving to Canada. So I'd encourage you to check out my YouTube channel, as well as the frequently asked questions page that I added on my website, busi.global. And that will hopefully get to answer some of the questions that you might have as somebody who might be very early in the process and just thinking, okay, where do I even start if I want to move to Canada? I hope you have enjoyed watching this video, and I would love to connect with you on my Instagram, Busi_global. Thank you so much for having me on the Second Chances with Sophia V channel. My name is Busi, and I hope I will be seeing you on one of my other platforms where we can continue the conversation about living in Canada, moving to Canada, and how you can make that dream or goal that you have a reality.